Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for tuning in to this remote meeting. My name is Danielle Lenarsic-Biss. I am a planner with Gladkey Planning Associates, and I'll be your lead facilitator today. Welcome. Tonight, we're pleased to hold our are now being recorded. Tonight, we are pleased to hold our visioning workshop for the Markham Centre Secondary Plan update. This session is being recorded and live streamed on the city's YouTube channel, and the recording will be made available afterward on the Your Voice Markham website. We ask that you keep your camera turned off until the breakout session portion of the meeting, which will not be recorded, and to limit audio feedback and improve the sound quality for all participants, please keep your microphone muted in this main room unless you're called upon to speak. We recognize that in Markham, we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples, including the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Huron-Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee. We recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land, and we are grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources. We are committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. So as many of you know, we are updating the Markham Centre Secondary Plan, which was previously approved in 1997. We held a series of virtual interactive discussions this summer, and nearly 200 of you actively participated here on Zoom, and many others listened live or watched the recordings. You shared many great ideas and important considerations for the future of Markham Centre, and this helped us identify the issues most important to you and the themes to explore moving forward. We've drafted a vision and guiding principles for the secondary plan, which will direct us in creating options for how Markham Centre could develop over the next 20 to 30 years. Tonight, we want your feedback as we formalize this vision and guiding principles. You'll hear more about this shortly. As in our previous meetings, we'll have brief presentations and then we'll turn it over to you in small groups to get your feedback. Our team for the secondary plan update is identified here on Zoom as co-hosts. We're also delighted to have members of council joining us this evening. I see Councillor Reid McAlpine, Councillor Andrew Keys. If I've missed any others, please do let me know in the chat. If you have any questions for us tonight, please submit them by sending a message through the Zoom chat to the participant that is labeled Ask a Question. Due to time constraints, we'll post answers to any questions received onto Your Voice Markham after the session. And you can find the Q&As from our last sessions, as well as the recordings on there too. So I'm now pleased to introduce Development Services Commissioner Arvind Prasad, who will say some brief words just before we dive into the presentations. Arvind, over to you. Arvind, are you there? Are you able to, you might have to unmute yourself and turn on your screen again.
Sorry about that.
There we go. No worries.
Can you see me? Okay, well, good evening. And thank you to everyone for joining us. I'd like to also thank Councillors Andrew Keys and Reid McAlpine for joining us also at this evening's virtual visioning workshop for the Markham Centre Secondary Plan update. This is to discuss the future of Markham Centre, our city's downtown. I can assure you that staff have listened to you over the past several months as we started working on an update to the 1997 Markham Centre Secondary Plan, and we have held 3 virtual visioning sessions over the summer months. The last few decades have seen many planning and development projects come to fruition to refine the community structure and neighborhood character of Markham Centre. Markham Centre has evolved. It's evolved from an area that was primarily agricultural in the early 1980s to now an area that is home to several Markham landmarks, such as the Markham Civic Center, the Pan Am Center, Markham YMCA, the Cineplex building, Unionville GO Station, the Pride of Canada Carousel, to name a few. And if you have been active on Twitter or social media, you'll know that the groundbreaking for York University has also just happened, and Markham Centre is pleased, and the city of Markham is pleased to welcome York University as the first publicly funded university in York Region. Markham Centre is also home to over 8,000 residential units, over 1.8 million square feet of prime office space, 715 hotel suites, many businesses, and as I previously mentioned, coming soon, York University. We anticipate Markham Centre will continue to grow and evolve over the next several years. And we want you to help shape its future. So let us share a vision of a downtown that is vibrant, that is pedestrian oriented, it's welcoming, it's inclusive, it has many places to shop, experiences. It's a place that'll continue to serve the needs of our diverse and growing city. So Danielle, thank you very much for allowing me to do these opening remarks, and I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'll now invite my colleague, John Gladkey, to present. John is president of Gladkey Planning Associates, lead consultant on the Markham Centre Secondary Plan update. John, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Danielle, and thank you, Arvind, for those introductory remarks. As some of you know, those of you who have been involved in the previous sessions, our team, Gladkey Planning Associates, are leading a group of consultants that are working with city staff to update the Markham Centre Secondary Plan. Our team includes Deeta, who are urban design specialists, Ken Greenberg, who will be doing part of this presentation with me later on. He's an urban designer and a planner who's well known internationally. Stantec, who are working on the municipal servicing side of things, and Steer, who are our transportation experts. So the update to the Markham Centre Secondary Plan actually started before we were engaged. We were engaged earlier this year, but last spring and summer, there was a significant amount of engagement, and a lot of people participated, over 1,600 people. There were lots of views and video on the video. The Your Voice Markham website was launched at that time. Since we've started, we're initially hoping before COVID to have in-person meetings. We've had to pivot to online meetings because of COVID-19, but we've successfully done that. We've also updated the website and introduced some polls, forum. There's an ideas board. And we've got quite a few participants over since we've started this new phase, and new registrants as well. In the summer, as Arvind said, we had 3 sessions which were leading up to this visioning workshop. And we had over 200 participants in those sessions. There were a number of questions. And these sessions were live streamed. What we heard, so some of the issues that we heard about were that the area feels disconnected. It's hard to cycle or walk around the area, but there's lots of potential here, and it's a work in progress. We also heard that what people would like to continue to see in the future is a mix of uses, public gathering places, variety of building heights and densities, all-season trails, a downtown core near the GO station, a safe and complete cycling network, a pedestrian-friendly environment, affordable housing, and the use of new technologies. So we've taken this feedback that we've gotten from you, and we've formulated a draft vision, which we'd like to share with you tonight and get your feedback on it. So the breakout sessions, where you're going to be asked to comment on this vision, to add to it, to tweak it if you like. And we've also put together some guiding principles. So let's go to the vision. Oh, sorry. So the vision is, I'm going to read it out and then we can discuss it later on. Markham Centre is Markham's downtown. It is the heart of the city. As a center of civic life and the hub of activity, and I can't see, okay. It draws people from across Markham and the region to live, work, learn, recreate, and participate with pride in the Markham community. As a complete community, Markham Centre consists of a healthy and vibrant mix of uses that enables people to meet their daily needs locally and within convenient walking distances. Markham Centre diverse parts come together to create an attractive and vibrant place, a place with a distinct sense of identity, a place where people want to be. So this is the vision we'd like you to think about and to comment on in the breakout sessions later on. We've also put together some guiding principles. The idea of these guiding principles is that they would provide us with guidance as we develop development options, 3 development options, or varieties of development options, and the preferred development option, as well as then the update to the secondary plan. So I'm going to go through each of these fairly quickly. Again, in the breakout sessions, we're going to ask your comments on whether we got this right and any additions or tweaks you want to make to them. So the first thing is to create a place that is the heart of Markham. This is not, Markham Centre is not just another neighborhood. It is intended to be the center of Markham, Markham's downtown, and an important regional center. So creating a place with heart will speak to that. The second guiding principle that we got from you was to support a diverse and prosperous economy. Markham already has a number of firms that have been there and located in Markham that provide quite a bit of employment for people in Markham. And the idea is to continue this trend and this presence into the future as Markham Centre evolves, to make sure that Markham Centre is not just a one-trick pony, that there are a number of different activities taking place. Support arts, culture, and recreation. So already there are important cultural and recreational facilities, as you can see from these slides, as well as public art in Markham Centre. And the hope is, and the idea, the principle is that as we move forward, we need to ensure that this grows and is reinforced. Create an efficient and safe transportation system. Most of you are familiar with the Viva bus system. You'll probably know that the GO train station, that the GO service is proposed to be expanded. And some of you may know that there is as well a plan for transitway along the 407. All of these pieces need to come together. But the most important thing that we want to focus on, which you've already heard from Arvin and from me earlier, is walking and cycling. This, we're hoping that we can create a place where people can choose to walk and cycle and not use their car, unlike other suburban environments. To create a great public realm. So by public realm, we're talking about the space between buildings. And it's not just pavement and sidewalks, concrete and asphalt. It's street furniture. It can be recreational features, linear parks, street trees, public art, all of these pieces that can make that asphalt and that sidewalk much more interesting and engaging, and places that people actually want to hang out in. The sixth principle is to build neighborhoods with access to all the things needed for daily life. So many of you have heard, or those of you who participated in previous sessions have heard about the 15-minute neighborhood. And the idea is to have all the things that you need for daily life within a 15-minute walk or cycle of where you live. And so what we'd like to do is make sure that as we move forward, we can create a series of neighborhoods that are all 15-minute neighborhoods. Seventh principle is to realize the full potential of the Rouge River Valley as an environmental and placemaking feature. The Rouge River Valley is an incredible natural resource in Markham, and we think, and the principle is, that we can take better advantage of it and make better access to it for people who live in Markham, make it a real unique feature. And I think Ken's going to talk quite a bit about this as part of the second phase of this. Plan for inclusive neighborhoods. And by this, we mean inclusive for families, for seniors, and for all ages in between, inclusive for people who need affordable housing, and inclusive for people who need assistance with getting around and with various other means to engage in civic life. So a really important principle, and we think we have some tools where we're going to be able to create this. A ninth principle is to innovate, and this is tied closely to sustainability. We think that there are opportunities with technology to create a more sustainable area, particularly with energy, maybe with water use, sewage facilities, garbage disposal, all of these kinds of municipal services. And so we heard from you that you would like to make sure that innovation is part of moving forward Markham Centre. And finally, this is the Markham logo, lead while remembering not just the buildings, but also the cultures, the people, those who came before us in Markham, as well as the natural heritage. All of these are important parts of remembering what Markham is. So we need your feedback. We're going to go into breakout rooms, but first I'm going to turn it over to Ken to continue with the presentation. Thank you. Ken?
Yeah, thanks very much, John. I am just... So I've been asked to take the vision and the principles that John has described and just explore a little further for inspiration what these might actually look like, drawing on some examples from elsewhere and expanding a little bit on these themes. So as we move from vision to reality, it's actually useful to keep in mind that Markham is actually part of something which is happening throughout our region, the Greater Golden Horseshoe. What's emerging is a new kind of regional city where the places to grow that have been identified by the province, the red circles that you see here, of which you are one, are becoming city centers in their own right and wired by a tremendous investment after a hiatus in transportation. So a $45 billion investment that's going on in expanding all-day GO service, a variety of bus rapid transit lines and light rail lines, which really makes this possible. This reflects a worldwide paradigm shift that we are all living through, from dependence on the automobile, which really emerged in the decades after World War II, to a more sustainable way of living. And these two side-by-side illustrations of the paradigm show the emphasis on active transportation, walking, cycling, mixed use on the right-hand side, versus a kind of environment where we went from parking lot to parking lot or garage, and uses tended to be isolated and separated from each other. As John mentioned, this idea of the 15 or 20-minute neighborhood has, in a fascinating way, emerged worldwide in the, I would say, tremendous extent in the last 6 months. The mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, used that as the major part of her campaign in running for re-election. On the left, you see the province of Ontario's version of transit-oriented communities. And what they both have in common is within a short walking distance of where you live and work, all of the elements of daily life would be available. It's also interesting to note that, again, you are not alone. Pretty much every one of the 905 municipalities in the Greater Golden Horseshoe is working on a version of what you're calling Markham Centre. In some cases, these are existing cities like Hamilton or Oshawa, which are working on their downtowns. In Etobicoke, it's taking down a spaghetti junction of highways. Each one is a little different. I'm currently working in downtown Brampton, where light rail is coming up on Hurontario from Port Credit. And each one has its own challenges and opportunities. So now looking at Markham, I'm going to take 5 lenses and look at what I see as the major challenges and opportunities. Life at the transit hub, generating a real civic presence, achieving true mixed use, inclusion, creating a complete community, unlocking the Rouge Greenway, and active transportation, making walking and cycling viable ways of getting around. So let's start with the transit hub itself. You have an opportunity where GO and Bus Rapid Transit come together to create the heart of your downtown, really the most downtown-like area. Currently, it is essentially a parking lot. And so how do you use this opportunity? And I've quoted here from a motion that was put forward by Councillor Jim Jones, proposing that future development around transit stations in York Region be planned as rail integrated communities, a dense form of transit oriented development. And these are some examples of what that might look like. So instead of a parking lot, you get out of the train or the bus rapid transit, and you're in an intense environment made up of public space, indoor and outdoor, with a whole cluster of uses in immediate proximity that would support that hub. This is a real possibility that you have at your GO station. The problem now, or the opportunity, if you like, is that you have these assets. John pointed to them and illustrated a number of them. They are physically distant from one another. They're separated by a great deal of no man's land. So the real challenge is, how do we get them in that circle, that walkable circle of the 15 to 20 minute walking radius? I'm going to show you a couple of examples that I'm working on currently. This one is in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's a master plan I actually started working on 20 years ago near the Kendall T-stop on the subway line in Boston, Cambridge. And what's interesting about this is, on a 10-acre site in these 6 tight urban blocks, you have a really strong public realm made up of 2 squares. It joins an edge of the Broad Canal. It has a combination of office, life science labs, hotel, residential, all manner of retail uses, community facilities, arts and culture, all within this intensive environment. A current project of mine is working with the city of Brampton at the intersection of Steeles, here Ontario Main Street, where the light rail will be arriving in 2024. And here, Shoppers World, a mall built in the 1960s, is being demolished to create a neighborhood that will house 10,000 people, 3,000 employees, by RioCan, a major developer. But 6 additional developers have joined RioCan. You see those outlined in black, to create an area that will eventually serve 23,000 existing residents, plus 50,000 new residents and 20,000 employees within that 20-minute walk, within that magic walkable area. This is what this looks like from the air. And also important are the green fingers, which don't isolate this area, but actually extend out into the surrounding neighborhoods. And this is anchored by, in blue, a community hub, which will contain a school, a recreation center, library, arts and culture uses, daycare, and a center for young entrepreneurs, among other things, in a park-like setting. The park is really important, the park at the heart. This is Canoe Landing. This is a rendering, but this park, this school is now opening this September. 2 new schools, actually, the 2 schools and a community center on Canoe Landing Park. And it really is the heart of the City Place neighborhood. Grange Park is another example. And the quality of this kind of public space, achieving this in the heart of that downtown, is really critical. This is an example that you saw already from the West Don lands of the kind of streetscape enriched by public art. I want to put a caution here about something that I think you have to watch out for, which is, now that you no longer have the restriction on high-rise buildings, the temptation to go to what's called tall and sprawl, and the importance of the missing middle. That middle range of density which supports life and the kind of pedestrian animation you want at street level. You see in the lower left that if you take one of those tall towers that we're seeing emerge all around our area and you spread that out, as you see on the right, you get a completely different kind of environment. And it's, as one of my colleagues, Jonathan Barnett, says, it's not how dense you make it, it's how you make it dense. There is a real problem with over-relying on a cluster of high-rise towers and not getting that missing middle. There's also, in terms of inclusion, what is the grain at which we mix things? You may recognize this. This is an aerial view near your civic center. Yes, indeed, there are a variety of different types of housing, but the grain at which things are mixed is very coarse. They're very separated from one another, almost in isolated neighborhoods. And I think we can learn something from a city like Helsinki, which is involved in doing this very same thing around the 20-minute neighborhoods. And they have, if you look at the circle, they have a variety of different types of housing producers, including full market housing, co-ops, partially subsidized, fully subsidized housing. And in these new neighborhoods that you see here, what's interesting is that in every block, there is a mix of different people, a diversity of people, and they share these open courtyards, and together they make up the neighborhood. So you're not isolating people or separating people by income or family type. You're actually fully integrating them with different architects, different housing producers. So I think aiming for that fine grain, and here you see on the ground this actually happening. This is one of those neighborhoods. It's called Kalasatama. I visited it. The reason I've included these two images is in 2020, you see quite a bit of the neighborhood is built. If you see that curvilinear light roof on the image on the left, that is the school and community facility. And if you look on the right, back in 2014, as the neighborhood was coming into existence, the foundations had already been laid for the school. So the school, the transit hub, all those community facilities came early, not after the neighborhood was fully built. And here is another Helsinki neighborhood. This one is called Ruolahti. And here you see everything together. The park in the middle, and just above that is a school with the two bridges. At the top of the image is a subway stop. And you can see in all of the blocks, if you look at the different roof colors, you have that mix of different types of housing leading to that complete social mix that I was mentioning. Now I'm going to talk about the Rouge Greenway. This is the thing that I think is your greatest single asset. The Markham Centre can be known as the place on the river. And I'm going to show you some examples from a project I've been working on with Quebec City. 4 rivers lead into the St. Lawrence, and a rivers master plan has made these rivers the heart of the neighborhoods through which they pass. So there's an educational raising and awareness of our place in the environment, water celebrated as a source of biodiversity, water as an engine of development, extending green fingers into all the adjoining neighborhoods, which are partly used for stormwater treatment. Water, there's an artistic dimension celebrating that biodiversity, providing really truly beautiful access to and through these river valleys. Again, another example of the green finger and the trails extending into neighborhoods, being able to live in the heart of the city, and the contrast with that natural environment is one of the great attributes of urban life. And if you look at those little icons, all of those different ways in all of the seasons of the year of experiencing the river, of protecting water and natural areas, the very fact that you could have a beaver dam in the heart of the city, a beautiful infrastructure, that gives access to the water, to get down close to the water, to touch the water as part of daily life. Using technology, the innovation aspect that John was talking about, to expand the educational immersion in the river, making it the heart of all the neighborhoods through which it passes. And you get a sense of quite how extraordinary that can be. The next is active transportation. This is a walk score. Markham, unfortunately, scores very badly. It has a very low walk score. The question is how we can change that. How can we make walking and cycling the default way, the convenient way of getting around? What's interesting to me is that from west to east, Markham City Centre is 3 kilometers, which is the same distance as the beach in Toronto, if you know that. So from a cycling standpoint, this is an 8-minute, very comfortable cycle trip from one end to the other. We can take inspiration from the Dutch in their suburban environments who have really created this great cycling infrastructure that makes it safe for all ages. I think we have to take advantage of every opportunity, including bike share and car share and technological assist to help make that shift away from the car. You may be familiar with 8 to 80 Cities, which is a worldwide organization based in Toronto, whose claim is that if you make this infrastructure work for an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old as indicator species, you've made it work for everybody. And the test at the end of the day is, will the kids who live in the city center be able to walk or bike to school? A big surprise is that age 60 to 75 account for more than 1/3 of the biking boom and are the fastest growing cohort of people who are actually making the shift to cycling. So in conclusion, Markham Centre is a work in progress. You can see in orange the areas that have been built out already. The question is, can we take the themes, the principles that John has indicated, the vision that he's described, and take the next increment of change to fill in the voids, to be ambitious, to really deliver on that vision. And this is my final slide. I'm completely convinced that if we squint a little bit and look at this 3-kilometer stretch of Markham City Centre, it's quite possible to imagine a series of distinct 15 to 20-minute walkable neighborhood precincts connected to each other in vital and intimate ways and along the green spine of the Rouge River. Thank you.
Ken, I'd like to thank you for your very inspiring presentation. And before we send it back to Danielle, I just want to say that we had, I previously introduced Councillor Andrew Keys, and I believe I introduced Councillor Reid McAlpine before he actually even got on to the meeting, but so welcome to both. I would also like to introduce our Deputy Mayor, Mayor Hamilton. He said he had some issues getting on, but we're glad to have you join us now. Regional Councillor Jones and Councillor Issa Lee, they're all here today. So thank you very much for everyone for coming. So Danielle.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And I made a note of the same, so I'm glad you made those introductions and welcomes. Okay, everyone, so we're keen to hear your thoughts on our draft vision and guiding principles. We want to hear, which principles are most important to you. Is there anything missing? And how we can achieve these in Markham Centre. So in a few moments, you'll be prompted by Zoom to join a breakout room led by a facilitator who will guide you through these questions and a note taker to take note of your ideas and feedback. You'll be in a group with about 7 or 8 other people. You will not be recorded in these breakout rooms, so you're welcome to turn on your mics and video. At about 8:05, I'll send a 10-minute warning to wrap up your discussion. Back, everyone. We'll just wait for folks to join us as the breakout rooms close.
Danielle, I'm very impressed. We're right on time.
I know. I love keeping time. Got to respect people's time. They're giving up their 2 hours this evening. There's lots of things they could be doing. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I see everybody's joining us. Just a reminder to please turn your cameras and microphones off as we begin recording the session again. And we're going to share being recorded again. So feel free to turn off your videos and your mics, because I think they're automatically switched on once you join the group here. We do still have the poll results up. This should be shared on your screen. So we're going to share the key takeaways from your small group discussions about the issues most important to you and the issues that we're missing. So we heard, as I recall from the poll results, our number one most voted option was creation of public gathering spaces, followed by mix of land uses and distribution of density. And so you told us in your small groups that the creation of public spaces needs to consider seasonality, recognizing that long winters make a difference, thinking about activity in these public spaces, how we create better environments for winter, and talking about the public realm being part of the pride of Markham. You told us how we need a mix of heights and densities across Markham Centre. You asked, what does it look like to meet provincial density targets? In terms of mix of uses, you wanted places in Markham that are one-dimensional, so like a business campus. You talked about having a corridor to connect core areas. You want multi-functional features in your public spaces. And in terms of location of transit stations and bus stops, you said that the station and location should also include active transportation into the mix. So finalizing the ultimate street network and thinking about how people will move and cross and connect. In terms of the question we asked, our second question, in terms of issues that are missing from the list and how you'd like to address them, you told us development charges increase the pressure from developers for high-rise buildings. You need family-size units to protect the areas in the vicinity of Markham Centre, that Markham Centre should be a kid-friendly neighborhood. If the city provides family-friendly spaces, then developers can confidently build family-sized units. You talked about program public spaces. So again, talking to that seasonality, having large places to gather, such as the Civic Square in Mississauga. You told us that you want to see flexibility in planning. So in terms of permitted uses and zoning, ideas of spaces that can transform and are flexible, that can move with the seasons and the demographics of the community. Looks like, yeah, multiple groups talked about family-sized units within condominiums, talking about having a mix of tenures, including rentals. In terms of the Rouge River Greenway, not just accessing it, but preserving and protecting it. And tying into that, it looks like you said, public art is an important component of the public realm. In terms of making the secondary plan happen, you said that, implementation is really key, and what factors we have to consider in making this plan happen and acknowledging the end goal. You emphasize having constant review, public reports, updates on how the goals are accomplished, and public consultations such as this during the design process. And just finally, in terms of active transportation, you talked about the importance of where transit stops are, how they tie into safe walking and cycling infrastructure. Lots of great comments here from your small group discussions. tying into these key themes we discussed about a mix of land uses, distribution of density, public spaces. There's lots here that I think we'll want to unpack further. Just bearing in mind the time, though, I want to thank you so much for taking the time this evening to participate. And if you've joined us in our previous virtual meetings this summer, thank you for your continued engagement. On Your Voice Markham, you can find all the materials from our engagement thus far, including video recordings and summaries. And soon we'll share the vision report that summarizes our process thus far and the final vision of our vision and guiding principles. Final version, of our vision and guiding principles. If you have other thoughts to share with us, there are opportunities to provide feedback on the Your Markham Centre website or through the email address listed there. And once our vision and guiding principles are finalized, we'll need to determine what they look like in practice. So our team will generate some development options and we'll need your input. So you can stay tuned to Your Voice Markham for ways you can participate later this fall and winter. So to close our evening, I'll introduce Development Manager Stephen Liu to share a few remarks as we end the session. Stephen, over to you.
Thank you, Danielle. Good evening, and thank you everybody for participating tonight and contributing to the lively discussions on the draft vision and guiding principles for Markham Centre. As discussed and described by Mr. Greenberg, we have many opportunities to transition Markham Centre to an exciting and inclusive downtown that is fine-grained and is a great place for Markham residents and visitors to live, work, play, celebrate, and visit. As Danielle mentioned, staff will compile your input from tonight and from the summer virtual sessions to finalize the vision and principles in the report and presentation to the Development Services Committee at the end of October. The next opportunity for community engagement will be at the development options stage in October, November, where staff will seek input on the formulation of 3 development options for the secondary plan, and also in early 2021 when our stakeholder engagements would kick off. So stay tuned for that. I just want to be positive here and let everybody know let's continue to work together to achieve our vision, and together we can make a great downtown. So thank you again tonight for attending and have a great evening.